mind Ori. He's just taking a bath over there, apparently. So this is a bit later in the day than I usually film. It is now evening. We've already had dinner and everything. Tomorrow, I am actually getting my haircut and redone and everything. So I'll probably film before I go to my appointment tomorrow. So there'll be one more clip of me with this way too long, shitty hair. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot chopped off and it's gonna feel so much better. So if you follow world news, you will know that yesterday was the second round of the elections here in France, and luckily Macron won, yay! So it was Macron versus Le Pen, which was literally a repeat of the last presidential election in 2017 here. Pretty much Macron's politics are what we would consider conservative, or like the right in America, in the US, and Le Pen is like radical right. Like all of her ideas are radical, like literally deport everyone that isn't French, like including people with dual citizenship. That was one of her platforms this time. It was interesting to hear about. So yeah, she's very, very racist and very like purist in everything, and she's usually referred to as female Trump. So this was a very, very important election, not only for France, but the world. And luckily Macron pulled it out. He got 58.1% of the vote, and she got 41%, I think is what it was. But it wasn't as big of a gap as the first election, and so it's kind of scary because it means more and more people are leaning to those more radical ideals, and 2027? Yeah, that'll be the next elections, I guess. Will be scary. Anyway, let's get into the actual book and forget about real life for a while. So I read chapter 1 of book 6. I'm gonna have to look at that again today, and I think we're in for another Waterloo situation. So let me double check this, because even though I just read it today, I have the worst memory in the world. Was this book 6, or am I just delusional? Yes, book 6. Okay. And one thing I want to point out for why I think this is going to be another Waterloo section, well, Waterloo type section, I should say, is there's a footnote at the very end of the chapter here, and the convent that Jean Valjean is staying at with Cosette is called the Bernardine Convent of the Perpetual Adoration. And it's like very secretive and no one's allowed inside kind of thing. Like you need to know a password to get past the first door. And then you go into like this really tiny room, and a voice pretty much comes out of nowhere asking you for a second password. And after you say that one, then you go into like another room. And I literally had no idea what was happening at first. I'm like, is this a strip show? Because of like how he was describing it and how there's like people behind curtains and stuff. And then he was talking about being able to see like the bottom half of people's faces, and I was like, what? So yeah, it's a bit weird, but this convent does not exist, never existed. It's a completely fictional place. And then this footnote lists like the actual convents that were in Paris that Victor Hugo based this one off of. But then it goes on to say, Hugo derived the exhaustive details which follow from ladies who had been inmates of these establishments. Also, calling them inmates does not sound really fun either. So yeah, exhaustive details sounds a little scary. And I was just kind of flipping through to see how many chapters there are and stuff, and it's a lot of chapters. It also looks like very little dialogue, very just big paragraphs and lots of descriptions, it seems like. So this week might not be the greatest in terms of Les Miserables. Oh my god, Ori! We're gonna cover that up. I did not realize that he was quite going that far with his bath. My god, cat. Have some decency, man. Sorry about that. I was not expecting that at all. So that's where I'm at in the book. Jean Valjean, Cosette, Javert, none of them was mentioned in this chapter at all. It was like we were following this person trying to enter the convent, but it wasn't like a named person. I think it was technically supposed to be like us, maybe, or something like that, where it's just some like self-insert kind of thing, just so you can see what the place looks like and how it's set up and everything. So yeah, I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's now just going to go through the convent and tell us more info about it and everything, and not necessarily talk about the characters or anything like that. Also, there was another part at the end of the chapter. All right, I'm going to read the last sentence of this chapter. And I already lost my place. Although the convent was the most strictly enclosed of all we shall seek... Wait, what? Although the convent was the most strictly enclosed of all we shall seek to enter it, taking the reader with us, and, within the bounds of discretion, describe matters unseen by any chronicler and hitherto unrelated. It's just like, what? So, I don't know if it's just going to be describing stuff just for the sake of it, or if it's going to be like Waterloo, where like the last 2 seconds of it actually connects to something relevant. But I guess we'll find out, and that's kind of the part of the fun of reading this, is seeing how much is actually relevant to the rest of the story.
Ori! Look at you, baby boy. Still dancing. You're silly.
So I am getting ready to head out for my hair appointment right now. I have not read Les Miserables today or anything like that, so I will update on that later. I just wanted to show how my hair is right now. Looks really annoying and staticky and is way too long. And I'm back home, and here is a new mess of hair. So they didn't cut it as short as I wanted, which I even showed like a picture that had like 3 different angles, and I was like, even a little bit shorter than this, and still didn't do that. So I'm not sure why this is the second time in a row they don't cut as short as I want, but they did the style of cut how I wanted, but this isn't how it was supposed to be styled. This is just how they wanted to do it for a before and after picture thing, which I'm fine with, whatever. But yeah, here it is. My entire head got to be colored because I basically wanted a balayage that matched more my natural color, but what was already done was too light, so they had to do a bit different than normal, I guess. But I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the cuts. Hopefully when I style it myself, I still like it and it's all good. But they did cut a lot of hair off, so I am happy about that. We are a few hours later, and I finally read my chapter for the day in Les Miserables, and this lighting is making my hair look freaking yellow. I realized it in that clip. It's not yellow. Here's a picture that I just took like an hour ago of what my hair looks like. It's not yellow, I promise. But anyway, I just read the first chapter, and not the first chapter today. It's chapter 2 in book 6. And it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. We are basically just doing a deep dive into this convent, and this is a fake convent, but I don't know if this person this is based off actually existed. I'll have to look that up. So apparently they're based off of the Benedictines, who worshipped Saint Benedict. They were a thing, and I think they were founded in like Toulouse or something like that. But this is specifically a chapter based on, was it Martin? God, I cannot remember anything, I swear to God. Yeah, Martin Verga, who apparently is a Spanish guy, but I'll look up and see if he actually existed or not. And I guess that means they're even more strict than normal Benedictines. They have to be completely covered, like the only thing you can see on them is their mouths. And they have like a vow of silence. They cannot own anything, like they can't say the words like my or mine. They have to always say our. Oh, and for the vow of silence, they can't talk except for specific periods that are considered a recreation. It's a bit weird. They don't have their own rooms, like doors and stuff aren't a thing. Like they can't even have something that's like their own room. So they're in what it described as open cells. And it even says, to anyone seeing them, only their mouths are visible. All have yellow teeth. No toothbrush has ever entered the convent. It's like, what the fuck? And also, like, any little thing is considered a sin. Like, if you are singing and you sing an incorrect note, or if you tear your veil, or just minor little things. Those are considered sins that you have to repent for. Obedience, poverty, chastity, permanent confinement within the walls. Such are their vows made more rigorous by the rules. Oh yeah, it also says, like they have a bunch of days where they fast, which I think is pretty normal for stuff like that. But they wake up at 1 a.m. to like start worshiping and chanting and stuff. They sleep with coarse woolen sheets on mattresses of straw, take no baths, light no fires, scourge themselves on Fridays. Like, I don't know if that's like self-flagellation kind of stuff or what the hell that is. Oh yeah, and then for 6 months of the year, they wear like these shirts made out of hair that are like really uncomfortable and make you really hot. I've read about these before when it comes to religion, and it's just stuff that makes no sense to me. But basically, this is an order of nuns that just follow all these really strict rules. So I'm just kind of curious where this is actually gonna go, like with all this description and everything, because like I don't really care very much, especially since they're a fictional order. It's just kind of like, it makes it that much worse. Like at least the Battle of Waterloo, like that's actually a thing that happened. So I don't quite mind as much reading about that since it's actual like history. But this, I don't know. I noticed the next few chapters are pretty short, so tomorrow I'll probably read multiple, but I'm hoping that I can get through this pretty fast because I definitely want to get back to like the action and Jean Valjean and Cosette and what is going to happen there. It's a bit noisy outside and there's a lot of construction going on, so if you can hear some of that, my apologies. But this has been quite a busy afternoon. I had my ortho appointment today at noon. They replaced the bottom wire on my teeth, which hasn't been done since I literally got my braces, so that kind of surprised me. But then she just replaced the like string, I don't know what it's called, that like they wrap around the teeth and stuff up here. So my appointment was at noon and I was back home at 12:11, so like it was super speedy, so I'm hoping that means my teeth aren't going to hurt as much as usual. But then my original plan was to go to the library tomorrow, but it's so nice out and it's supposed to be a bit warmer tomorrow. And like I'm wearing a sweater today, so I just kind of wanted to be able to go out when it was a bit cooler. So I decided to go to the library today and I ended up getting 3 books. One of them was not planned, but I always kind of glance over the not new releases, but just new books that the library has acquired shelf. And I saw this. It's the Best American Short Stories of 2021, and I didn't know, I should have assumed that something like this existed, but I didn't realize it until now. But this literally goes back to like the early 1900s, if not farther. But it says these are all selected from US and Canadian magazines. There are 20 short stories in here, so like they're definitely short stories. And just kind of glancing at the author list, I don't think I've heard of any of these authors before. So I'm really intrigued by that, because I feel like a lot of what I've been reading lately has been translated works, and I haven't really been reading American stories. So I'm kind of intrigued by this, and I've just been on such a short story kick as well. Like, I don't know, that's just kind of my jam. So I grabbed that. Then I grabbed what we are going to be reading in the local book club for May. I just realized I don't even know how to say that second word. It's like the Morsalt? I'm not sure. Investigation by Kamel. Oh gosh, I don't know how to pronounce the last name either. Daoud, maybe? I'll definitely have to look at those pronunciations for later. But this is actually kind of like a companion to a book called The Stranger by Albert Camus, I think the name is. And that's a really old book, and I think this is newer, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty much I haven't looked much into any of these books yet, but this was the pick. It's pretty short, as you can see. The Stranger apparently is also short, and I'm thinking of reading it before this one, because I guess The Stranger is about someone murdering a guy that is unnamed. He's only called like the Arab, and this book pretty much tells the story of the Arab and gives him a name and everything. So that's why they're kind of like companion pieces, just for like book discussion purposes and stuff like that. I think I'll probably read the other one before this, but we'll see. And then finally I got Pieces by Helen Oyemi, maybe. That's another name I'm gonna have to look up before like the wrap up stuff. And this was actually my suggestion for the book club this month, but it did not get picked. And this is essentially about two boys, I think. They go on like this train ride that was gifted to them, and they're like in love and everything. I think they had just like declared their love to each other kind of deal, and so they're like gonna go be happy kind of thing. But then strange things start happening on this train, and they have like a pet mongoose and stuff, so it's a bit of like bizarro stuff. But since this was my choice for this month, I also kind of wanted to give it a read. And that's all for the library. I've kind of been trying to not get as much books because I have stuff at home that I need to read now and stuff on my Kindle as well. So I'm kind of trying not to just put like all my eggs in one basket kind of thing and read more stuff that I already have. So for today, Les Miserables, I read 2 chapters, and pretty much it's about how we're still in the convent, obviously. But it's talking about how this convent also has this boarding school for girls, and it's just like, oh no. And yeah, it's just as strict as the convent, basically. But it talks about how like having the children around makes the older nuns and stuff more youthful. Like they don't feel as old or feel as lonely, I guess, with how strict they are and everything. But I wanted to read a few things aloud because this place is like bizarre, but it literally says, because at the boarding school, since it's with the convent, like they're being taught by the nuns, and it literally says, these children were taught to abhor the world in the age in which they have lived. One of them once said to the writer, the very sight of the cobbles in the street caused me to shiver from head to foot. Like, what the hell? Why would you teach children to hate the world? Like, that doesn't seem very practical, but pretty much how it's described, I feel like it's just kind of grooming these girls to be like subservient wives, and I don't particularly like it, obviously. But then it goes into talking about how some of the children like will say like bizarre things or just say funny things because they're kids and don't fully understand what religion is or how crazy these teachings are or anything. But then it goes into this dialogue between these two children that's actually pretty funny, and I'm going to read that for you. And the following dialogue is recalled. A mother: why are you crying, child? The child, age 6. I told Alex that I knew my French history. She says I don't know it, but I do. Alex, age 9. No, she doesn't. The mother: what happened? Alex: she said to open the book anywhere and ask her the first question I came across, and she'd answer it. Well, she couldn't answer it. But what did you ask? I opened the book anywhere, and she said, and I asked the first question I came to. And what was it? The question was, what happened next? It's just like, what the hell? So I actually thought that was kind of funny. But then it just kind of goes on to say how the kids kind of integrate with the nuns a bit and stuff. And that's about it for now. I definitely would not want to go to that boarding school. It's a bit too depressing. The next chapter is a bit longer, but I will probably read 2 chapters tomorrow as well, as I definitely don't want to hang out in book 6 for very long. I apologize for what's probably a lot of background noise. There's construction happening right across the street from us on the building there, and then right in front of our building on this other side, there's been construction for a long time, but it kind of died down a lot because of COVID, and then it was winter and everything, but it's really picking back up a lot now. They're making another RERE, and it's going through like right underneath the front of our building, and they're turning the top part into a parking lot. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, but like there's really no good time to not have noise besides the evening. So I apologize if you can hear all that happening in the background, but I wanted to film now so I could talk while this is fresh in my mind. I read the next 2 chapters in book 6 of Les Miserables, and one of them was pretty long, and the next several ones are short. So I think within the next 2 days I will have finished book 6. And basically this first chapter, like, I found what would be considered a freaking chain letter today. So apparently 3 times in the morning and 3 times at night they say this prayer, And at the very end, they say this, like, this is how the prayer ends. He who repeats this 3 times at night and 3 times in the morning will gain paradise in the end. I'm just like, that's a freaking chain letter. Like, what the hell? I just thought that was kind of funny. But then it talks about more of how life is like there for like the children and the nuns and everything. And gosh, these noises outside are driving me crazy. Like, it talks more about some of the punishments, and like when they're eating, they have that vow of silence, and that isn't one of the times they're allowed to talk at all. And so if anyone makes a noise, they have to make the sign of the cross with their tongue on the floor. It's like, what the fuck? Like, these punishments just seem very, like, nonsensical and just don't make sense for what the sin is. But these children and women are so sheltered that whenever there's any, like, outside noise you can hear from the outside world, the nuns, like, freak out. Like, for 3 months straight, apparently they could hear this guy playing a flute, and the children were just fascinated because they don't get to hear anything like this. And it's something from the outside, and so they're just all like giddy and going crazy over this freaking flute. And it says that the nuns basically just doled out more punishments because of it, and it's just like, fucking really, my god. I don't like this place, if you can't tell. But that's about it, because the next chapter just kind of talks about how there's 3 main buildings to the convent. There's the main one where all the adult women are, then there's the boarding school, which is called like the little convent. And then I don't even think it told me what the 3rd building was. Oh, the convent chapel, I assume. But what's so weird is that it's so sheltered and guarded that, wow, I did a really weird stutter there. It's so sheltered and guarded that, like, their church services, whatever, when the priest is preaching, he's literally surrounded by a 7-foot tall curtain, so they cannot see him. They can only hear his voice. And that's just so bonkers and bizarre to me. Like, it just seems like one of those weird extreme ways to kind of keep your purity and all of that. And I don't know, it's just beaucoup bizarre for me. So that's where I'm at here. Oh yeah, there was one thing. Victor Hugo freaking, oh my gosh, I hate him. There was one part where, I think it was at the very end, or was it here? Here we go. He once again mentions how this doesn't have anything to do with the story. He says, the following is an authentic incident which, although it has no bearing on our story, helps to complete the general picture of the convents. I'm gonna be so mad if after all of this, Jean Valjean just spends like a fucking day here, because like, this is insane. Like, my god. I honestly feel like Victor Hugo just likes to talk, or in this case, write. Like, he just doesn't want to stop and just keep going. So yeah, that is where I'm at right now. Just wanted to throw that in there real quick. So yeah, should be finishing up this book in the next 2 days. And I noticed at the very end of the very last chapter here, it says that book 7 is in the appendix. So I'm not sure why that is. So I might look that up. Because I kind of glanced at it, and yeah, it literally just looks like a section of the book is just in the appendix, but not really sure the reasoning for that. So not much else happening today. It is supposed to be a warmer day, our high is 73 degrees, so I might actually be able to read out on the terrace, which would be nice, but I probably wouldn't be reading this. I'd be reading my other book. But other than that, today should be a more chill day. Or he's just rolling around in the hallway. Torti is right behind this camera, so I'm not sure if she's gonna walk into frame or not. So I finished book 6, yay! No more convent stuff, potentially, because the way this ends, it says, book 7, a parentheses, will be found in appendix A, page 1202. So when I go there, I find that there's an Appendix A and an Appendix B. And Appendix A is essentially book 7. And essentially, it's just more about the fucking convent. And so I looked up why there's just these 2 parts that are in the appendix and not just in the actual book. And it's kind of a funny reason. It says, Hugo's publisher, Lacroix, feeling that this would be trying the reader's patience altogether too high, urged him to take it out, but Hugo refused, as it seems for purely personal reasons. His cousin Marie, to whom he was attached, had taken the veil in 1848, so that's why he just wanted to go on and on and on about this freaking convent. But I love the trying the reader's patience altogether too high. I love that. That's amazing. But that makes me surprised that they didn't put some of the Waterloo stuff in an appendix as well. But basically, since Victor Hugo refused to take it out of the book, later versions of it just kind of put that in the appendix. But I mean, I don't even think it's worth it because it's not very long. So what I might do over this weekend is read that Appendix A and then kind of summarize it on Monday then. But the chapters I read 5 of them because I just wanted to be done with this book. Pretty much had a lot, Torti, had a lot of name dropping. It was talking about how these people knew these people and these people were involved in the convent and blah, blah, blah. And I just really didn't care. And then it was talking about how there was this one woman. I called her a centenarian and I had no idea what that was. So I looked it up and apparently it's a person that is 100 years old or older. This is a very old woman, and it said she lived in the little convent. So I don't know if she had been like a teacher or something, but she had come from an abbey from a kind of not altogether different religion, but it had different rules. So when she was living there, she wasn't under the same strict rules that the other nuns were. So she had like this item that she kept locked in a cupboard. She had a door on her room kind of thing. So she was a lot more like chill, and people talked about her a lot and like, what is she hiding in the cupboard kind of deal and stuff. And it ended up just being a fancy plate in the end. So, and then it goes on more about how the convent is set up, like where the buildings are, how it looks, things like that. And then it talks about the decline of the convent, because it says starting in the 18th century, I think it is, religion in general started to kind of not be as important. And so by the 1840s, this convent like didn't exist anymore. And so the time that Jean Valjean is here, there aren't a lot of the nuns left or anything. It's like a shell of what it used to be kind of deal. And pretty much there used to be like over 100 people, it said. But then as the numbers started dwindling, basically there wasn't any young people and any old people anymore, because the old people had died and they didn't have the school for girls anymore, and so the young people were like going out into the world and living their own lives. So they just kind of had like this middle group, and they had to shoulder all the burdens and the work of keeping this place running. So as the numbers dwindled, it got harder and harder, to where there were people in like their 20s dying from the stress of it all and everything. That's kind of how that section ends. It's just being like, yeah, this place just basically worked themselves to death and it was way too strict and people didn't like it. So I'm hoping now that I'm to book 8, which is titled Cemeteries Take What They Are Given, which I love as a title, I'm hoping we get back to Jean Valjean and what him and Cosette are up to. But like I said, I might read that Appendix A first, so I don't know. I kind of don't want to, but I want to read the whole book. So it's just kind of like, I kind of have to if I want to do that. So we'll find out on Monday what I chose to do with that. But since today's Saturday, that is the end of this reading vlog. In just a few more hours, we'll be going to D&D at our friend's house, the Curse of Strahd campaign, which is my favorite. So thank you for hanging out with me this week. It is always appreciated. This week was just the convent, so hopefully next week will be more interesting and more Jean Valjean-ness. So until next time, bonne journée and au revoir.